Good evening, everyone. My name is, again, Aletha Jones, and I had 7 kids, a few nieces and nephews, that I sent to Bishop McCourt. And why I was asked to come was just to share my perspective as a working parent about what it is to have school choice. Now, back when my kids went through Bishop McCourt, there wasn't an EITC program, and the promise of having vouchers was dangled like a carrot every year. Like, you're gonna get taxpayer dollars if this happens or if that happens. Well, that never happened. So what I ended up having to do to have a choice was to work very hard. But let me tell you first how my kids happened to get to McCourt. I had a particular grievance with the public school because my children were being put on the wrong bus and being dropped off in the wrong location. And after this happened 3 or 4 times, of course, like any parent, I was up in arms. So I demanded that I choose in the district what school my kids went to. It happened that they were going about maybe 3/4 of a mile to a school that they were going, but there was a school that was closer to me. I live in an area that was closer to Westmont, and there was a school called Westwood, and that happened to be closer to me. So I, as an outraged parent, I spoke to someone and they assured me, oh, yes, your kids can go there next year, no problem. When the next year came, and I took my kids to that particular school because I'd say, I will transport them there just to know that they would be safe. The principal met me and said, I can't allow you to do this because this would cause everyone else to want to leave that particular school and come, and we can't do that. So not wanting to cause her any trouble, I respected what she told me. So one day they went to the school that I was promised they could go to. I didn't keep them out of school. The next day they went to the school that was in the district. And the third day I went to Sister Dolores, and I said, hey, I need my kids to be in a place where I know they're safe. The reason that they went there was when I spoke about the problem I had about their safety, about whoever was in the office was placing them on the wrong bus repeatedly, I was met with indifference. And it was like, oh, well, this is what's going to happen. Regardless of what you think or say, this is your only option. Well, don't tell me that's my only option. And that's how they happened to get into a Catholic school system. Because I want the option, and I want the choice to make sure my kids are safe and educated. Now, I'm not here to service up the pros and the cons of public schools and private schools. I'm here to say that I don't want to be powerless. And at that moment when they didn't hear my grievance, and they didn't meet my grievance with a resolution, I felt powerless. And I don't like to feel powerless. But what it took for me to be able to send my kids through the Catholic school system was to work Christmases, Thanksgiving, every holiday. I happened to work for Pennsylvania Electric Company in a place there where we worked 24 hours a day. We were business office, we worked outages, but God blessed me with the ability to make as much money as I could work making overtime. And in that way, I was able to put my kids through a private school system, but it came with a cost. Not so many extra things on the side. I made a choice for them to have an education so that at some point that they would have options, better options that an education would provide. But that came at a cost. It's a lot of things they couldn't have, a lot of things they couldn't do growing up because I had to make a choice. Every parent should be able to make a choice where their kids go to school. And it shouldn't cost blood from a stone. You should have the freedom to say, this better fits my child than that. I have 7 kids, and they range in academic abilities. I have a kid that went to Northwestern, she's an engineer. And of course, some people know I have professional athletes, but those athletes are also scholars. So I have one that he double majored, played football, went on to go to Columbia. But the point of the matter is, one school may not fit each kid. Fortunately for McCourt, at McCourt, the high achievers had an atmosphere. It wasn't just competition. People think because they have professional athletes that it was about professional sports. Well, it wasn't. Because football was something that they just did well. We were baseball players. But it was about, I could see down the road, and I wanted that road to be lined with an easier time than I had in supplying a living and enjoying their family. But the thing about going to McCourt was, whether you were a below average learner, an average learner, or someone that was going to excel, there was going to be somebody there to fit your needs. Somebody there to bring you, that individual student, along in the way that best suited your achieving. Well, that could be the same thing from school to school. One school might be better suited for a certain type of student, or a community to support a certain type of student than another. So you should have that choice. For me to have that choice, it took a lot of extra hours of work and a lot of extra time spent away from my family. With school choice, your tax dollars. What could I do if I had $15,000 in tax dollars? I wouldn't have to wear one pair of shoes all the time, sacrifice one coat all the time, everybody not have the clothes they have all the time. You make a sacrifice for your education when you don't have a choice. Have a choice. Everybody should have the power of this choice to say how their kids and where their kids are going to be educated. And that's not saying, as he said, anything indifferent about public schools, because I went to a public school. I'm pretty good. I had a good public school. There are good public schools. But again, the power of your choice is something that you should have, something that a parent should have, knowing your own kid, knowing what suits your kid best. And the nice thing, I don't want this to be a testimonial for McCourt, but it's going to have to be. Because we also had some students that at the public school, they said, we took you as far as we can take you. And McCourt brought them in. And they found a family, and they found the motivation they needed to succeed. So now I have 2 professional athletes, but they're not just athletes, they're scholars. One's a minister, one does, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Sometimes I see him on, sometimes I see him on Twitter, and I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, what are you doing? But he's also a Columbia graduate, and he's also a businessman, and I have an engineer, and I have an entrepreneur, and I have people that brought those students, teachers and principals, that brought those students to their best selves, so that they were able to go out and do what they wanted to do in life. So you as parents and as students, you need the power of choice, and you need the power of your tax dollars to make it the right choice for you without having to sacrifice so much. And I hope I didn't take a whole lot of your time. I appreciate your letting me come and share my perspective.